right, I guess we're live. Hello everyone. So welcome to the APAC Android Hangout Office Hour. My name is Tony Chen. I'm an Android developer advocate. So let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hello everybody. This is Rajdeep. I'm an Android developer advocate based out of India.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryosuke Matsuchi. I am developer advocate based in Tokyo. Nice to meet you.
Great. So let's take a look at our question this week. So I think, Rajdeep, you're going to take the first question, right?
Yes. Just give me a second. Yeah. So the first question is from Amu, Hyderabad. And the question is, almost all the OS released by Android have a good task killer. But still in 4.0, I see a lot of battery lagging applications running in background. Is there a way developers can minimize the RAM consumption in this version? Okay. So the question is, can we have a more effective way of reducing RAM consumption by using a task killer? So as far as we know, after Gingerbread, it's not possible to kill a task. So even if you kill a process in which an application is running, whether it's a foreground process or a background process, the process manager will try to restart that process again, even if you kill it using a third-party application. So based on the understanding I have, I think trying to kill a process to optimize RAM usage is like a non-starter. So other developers need to look at other options to optimize their RAM, that they're not unnecessarily hitting the local database or hitting the network connection unless they really need to fetch data locally or remotely.
Great. So Rajdeep, I think there's also another question I think probably we missed earlier. Can you take a look? It's from a location Sophia. The author is Dangly Wires. So can you take a look?
Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't scroll up in my spreadsheet. So what is the best way to retain and restore activity states in a project with lots of big forms? So the best option is to use bundles, resource bundles which are available when an on create is called or on start is called. So these bundles are passed, and when on destroy is called, you can actually use these bundles to store those activities. Now, so that is like a easier option. So you also might want to override this and store this in a local database if the amount of data you have is a lot more, and you want to implement an alternate persistence mechanism, you can do that. So the bundle is an inbuilt mechanism provided by Android. The only thing is you need to override these activity lifecycle methods, and when the activities either going in on pause or on stop, you need to call these, and when it's again restarting, you need to repopulate those forms. So that's a short answer to this question.
Cool. Rajdeep, I think you have the next question.
Okay. And the next question is, this is a question from Peter in Dublin. And my application uses async task for lazy loading images in a list view. And I have recently seen an increase in the number of rejected execution exceptions. Any ideas on how best to handle them, reduce the frequency? And okay, I haven't seen your code yet, but I think there are possibly two things happening here. And the first of all, I'd like to remind you that async task is not designed for running hundreds of tasks at the same time. We have a certain number of limitations in terms of simultaneous execution of async tasks. And for example, in Gingerbread, I believe that the limitation is up to 10 threads at maximum. And if you go beyond that, and you may get these rejected execution exceptions. And the general thinking is that async task is designed for doing some background task for updating user interface at some later point in your software. And we do not expect hundreds of async tasks lining up for updating your user interface all over the time. So we have certain limitation there. And in addition, we do not want these hundreds of tasks or maybe tens of tasks updating user interface randomly that could generate really bad user experience. So I would like to remind you that all of us should be really careful in terms of scheduling async tasks into relatively small number of tasks rather than scheduling hundreds of tasks at the same time. Having said that, another big change we did in ice cream sandwich was that before ice cream sandwich, async task was scheduled in parallel using general thread pool executor. And since ice cream sandwich, we stopped running async tasks in parallel threads. Instead, we started running async tasks in single thread outside the main UI thread. And the reason behind that was to avoid the confusion in terms of updating user interface. At the same time, this multi-thread programming in general is really complex problem. So we wanted to simplify the problem by making single thread executor as a default. And you can still choose multiple thread executor by parameter for this async task. And so that was a big change in ice cream sandwich. And looking at this question, you say that you have recently seen an increase in the number of rejected execution exceptions. And I do not know if this is happening in ICS or if this is happening on maybe Froyo or Gingerbread on recent version of your application. But I'd like to recommend that you consider reducing the number of async tasks you execute at the same time. And instead, please consider maybe 10 or possibly less async tasks being scheduled at the same time. Then you should have much less problem of rejected execution exceptions. And this async task, if you have really hundreds of tasks you should execute, you may want to implement your own some kind of scheduler. But it should not be necessarily in ice cream sandwich, but if you are targeting Gingerbread or Froyo, you may want to execute serially by yourself. And that was my suggestion. And I hope this answers your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosuke. So I'll take the next question. So this question is from Jay Hotobi from Omaha, Nebraska. So the question was, my app uses the audio record API. The doc says sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz is guaranteed to work on all devices. But on several phones, the audio record constructor throws illegal state exception. However, does not support sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz. Why? So I guess the answer to this question is In terms of guarantee to work on all devices, I believe that implies like devices that pass the CTS test suite we have. So if it's possible, the devices that don't work may not be one of the Android devices that pass our compatibility test suite. So if that's not the case, we encourage you to send us a post to share with us the model, so maybe we can forward this to the vendor, to the OEMs, and follow up on that. But in general, the 44.1 kilo per sampling rate is pretty common and should be supported on all the Android compatible devices. So next question, I guess, is Rosuke again.
Okay. This is a question from J.B. Hemlock in Seattle, United States. The question is, my application makes heavy use of Linkify for an in-app help system. This works in, say, 2.2, but it doesn't work on my HTC One S running 4.0.3. Has anything changed? Okay. To answer this question, I am sorry, we do not really know the answer to this question. And so I would recommend you to contact HTC One S manufacturer, because I have seen several reports, very similar reports from HTC One S users on this problem. Sorry about not being able to answer this question.
Okay. Rashdeep.
Yes. So the next question is from Ahmedabad in India. How to make a spinner that drags down instead of popping in a new window? So the question is, instead of the spinner list popping up in a new separate window, how the list can be populated in the same view. Now, the behavior which you are talking about, that is a default behavior, and the only way to implement a new behavior is that you should implement your own spinner and override the draw method of canvas, so that you can add your own views there, or the way you want your spinner output to look like, because there is no way to extend the current spinner and alternate the rendering mechanism, right? So the best option is to go ahead and write your own spinner. You might want to take a look at the current implementation of the spinner, which is anyway open source, and see few methods like onDraw, which you can override and implement the way you want it to. Okay, so that's the answer to this question. The next question also is from the same developer. Why Android doesn't give a widget for choosing an item from a list of array with a widget similar to date picker? Okay, it would be very helpful. Yeah, that's a pretty nice suggestion, and thanks for posting it here. We'll pass on this feedback to our framework team for Android, so that they can take a look at this suggestion and possibly implement it depending on the priority and another release schedule. So Tony, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is coming from Alejandro. So the question was, I'm working with a Google Maps API application, and I'm trying to figure out how to display a route from X to Y. Any recommendation? I just started with Android development. So so basically there are two approaches to this question. So we have a map native API in Android, but unfortunately there's no easy way to draw a route. Pretty much you have to use to draw your own shapes and using the direction API to get all the coordinates and map it to pixels and draw the lines with shapes. But the other option is using WebView, using the Map Web API. And with the Map API, Web API, it does provide polylines, so it probably make it easier for you to draw routes using the Web API using WebView. But there may be some performance like trade-off, so using WebView. So it really depends on your application, but that's pretty much how you approach the problem. The next question is from Gerald from Argentina. So the question was, how do I reuse an expansion file while updating an APK in the developer console? So Gerald shared with us a screenshot showing a newer version of APK cannot use an old version of the expansion file. So Gerald, my answer to your question is we were able to reproduce the what you saw, and so I think it's either there is an error in our documentation, or this is just simply how the expansion file is behaving. So we will pass this back to the engineering team and find out whether this is a bug or there is an error in the documentation. So thank you for bringing this up to us. We will update the documentation or file a bug correspondingly. Thank you. So I guess the last question, Rajdeep, take it away.
Yes. So the last question is from Vicky in Bangalore, India. And the question is, how to update the position of a button or image after translate animation is done. So he has written a bunch of steps which are not working. So the answer to this question depends on the version of Android you are running. After Honeycomb, we came out with new property and object animation framework. So you should use that to do the animation. So you might want to look at View Animation framework, which is an older framework, but I'm not really sure whether this will work there or not. And if you can provide more details about or link to a code in our next office hours, we can provide a more detailed response. But based on the current question, I would say if you're looking at Android 3.0 or above, use property animation. Otherwise, please send us your code and we'll take a look.
Cool. Thanks a lot. I think we are always welcome to get exciting questions from you guys, and we'll try our best to find answers for you. And so don't hesitate to ask. You can either post it on our Google Plus page, or even send it to our individual Gmail account.
Tony?
Yeah?
Tony? Actually, I got a follow-up question in G+ comments. And this is a question from Eric Villiers. And the question is, why there is no queue in async task? And the answer is that we do have a queue in async task. And it is true in Gingerbread and ICS as well. And the thing is that the maximum length of queue was very limited before ICS. And this limitation was because of the consideration that async tasks shouldn't really be used to schedule hundreds of tasks that could confuse user interface. And so in ICS, default behavior is everything is actually queued into a single array and then executed sequentially. So in ICS and in Gingerbread as well, and we are heavily using queue mechanism everywhere in async task. I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
Cool.
Sorry about that. Interrupting.
Following up that, okay. I guess that's pretty much all the questions we have for this week. And thank you for watching. And we hope to see you guys soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.